Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to Belgium. Today we are on a hike, I think about a 10-kilometre hike, about a 15-minute drive from the city of Liège. It's a French-speaking part of Belgium, I think. Looks like it by the signs. As you probably know, Belgium has 3 official languages, the other 2 being Flemish and German. But today we're in a French-speaking part. And I thought I'd talk to you about a couple of things this week. This is my 7th video, unbelievably. So I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about what I've learned in the last week about YouTubing. And the other thing I thought I'd talk to you about is who I am. Sounds a strange question to ask, but I am preparing, as I've said in previous videos, to return to the UK in October. And I'm expecting to experience a phenomenon, that's a word I struggle to say, a phenomenon that is known as reverse culture shock. So how will I fit in to a country that I left almost 16 years ago, when both me and the country have changed significantly? Okay, so there's been 2 major learnings for me this week with YouTube. The first is about subtitles, and the second is about explaining complex topics. Subtitles. What I discovered this week through the YouTube analytics is that about 10% of my views so far have used the subtitles option. So YouTube automatically generates subtitles based on recognition of my speech, and it displays that if the user or the viewer selects that option. And I guess it's helpful for people who perhaps are not native English speakers, or perhaps don't understand my accent, or maybe they're a bit hard of hearing, or perhaps they're watching a video in a place where they want to have it on silent and just watch the video, although I can't imagine why anyone would want to watch a video of me walking along talking. But anyway, so I hadn't realized that these subtitles are generated and that they're available to viewers of my videos. So I took a look at them this week and realized there are some mistakes. And perhaps it's my accent, maybe it's when I speak quickly, perhaps it's when I use filler words like and and so on. But there's definitely room for improvement. So what I've discovered is that I can go in and improve those subtitles. I don't know exactly how to do it. It's something I need to learn, but it is going to be time consuming. And so I'll probably pick out one video this week and have a go at improving the subtitles. And then if I find an easy way of doing it, I'll do it for all future videos that I make. The second thing I've learned about this week is about my ability to explain complex topics. So I made a video, it was the 6th video I'd made, where I was hiking through some woods where there were lots of damaged trees, many fallen trees, and I found it quite sad and disturbing, as I often do when I see this. And I had attempted to explain the reason for it. And when I went back home and watched the video and did the editing, I was not happy with my explanation. You know, I'm not a subject matter expert. My videos are unscripted, so I didn't have any notes with me. In fact, it wasn't something I was planning to talk about at all. It was just that I happened to come across these fallen trees and decided to talk a little bit about the situation here. I wasn't aware that I had a need to improve my communication skills. But I guess when I'm at work, I usually have some PowerPoint slides with some bullet points, or maybe I write some bullet points on some flip charts. Or if I'm giving a speech, I might have some cards with some prompts on. So at work, I tend to prepare for these situations and have some something there to help me. But when I'm out walking, I don't have any of that. I did once try bringing some paper with me with some notes on, but the paper was rustling and I was struggling to hold the paper and the camera, so I gave up on that. Um, so yeah, that's something I've got to work on. I don't know how many more complex topics I'm going to have to explain. Maybe this next one after this will be one actually talking about who I am. I'll let you know in a minute. But it was an interesting thing that I came across this week. So I've been working quite late in the evenings on both of these topics, the subtitles and trying to edit this video that had me walking through an unhealthy woodland. And yeah, but I'm not put off by it. I'll keep going, and yeah, we'll see what my videos look like in a couple of months' time. Okay, so on to the second topic on our agenda. Sounded like a businessman there. The second topic is about who I am, and as I say, I'm preparing to go back to the UK, wondering how I'm going to fit in. And I started reflecting on the different decades that I've lived as an adult and how I viewed myself during those decades. You know, what has been my identity, what have been my main beliefs, and how have those changed over the years. So the first decade I'll pick is when I was in my 20s, and in particular my early 20s. So this would have been in the 1980s. And I think there were a number of things that defined who I was during this period. So I was a worker, did hard manual work. I was a driver, so I drove small trucks around, JCBs, dumper trucks, vans. So all of these gave me a sense of being a real working class man from the West Midlands, who also supported Wolverhampton Wanderers and drove all around the country in my VW camper van, my Hillman Avenger, or in hire cars or hire vans. Quietly, I was also a son to my parents, obviously, who were struggling in life. My dad had really bad health. My mum had a lot of anxiety. And so I was there for them as well, looking after them during this period. Being the eldest child, only son, I felt I had a responsibility there. So I think that was also part of who I was. And maybe also, again, a little bit more quietly, but I was a person who voted for Labour, so I had socialist views. I believed in spreading the wealth more fairly within the country. It was a time of high unemployment, and I saw a lot of people struggling, a lot of industry closing down, and so I had quite strong views about that. So if I picked, 5 or 6 words to sum up who I felt I was during that period, then it would be those things. A hard worker, manual worker, working class from the West Midlands, drove around a lot, was a Wolves supporter, liked to drink a lot of beer and go out and have a good time, and was there to care for my parents who were struggling in life. So that would probably have been my identity, if you like, or some of my main characteristics during my 20s. Then fast forward a decade to when I was in my 30s, and then things were significantly different. So by that stage I was also a husband and the father of 2 children, and I had a career, and I was a project manager. And the project manager role was very dominant in my life. It kind of took over in some respects. I had to spend a lot of time away from home, and I felt under pressure to succeed because I needed to support my family. I was also a homeowner, so that was another thing that made up who I felt I was, a homeowner. And yeah, if I had a good day at work or a bad day at work, then that reflected on how I felt about myself, because my sense of self-worth was tied to my role as a project manager. But it was quite a narrowly defined definition of who I was, I would say. So I did start to look for other things during that period. Um, I, I had by this stage in my life, I'd left the West Midlands and was living in Buckinghamshire. I struggled a little bit to fit in down there because most of the people I worked with or lived near were well-educated professionals, whereas I had this more working class background. So I started taking an interest in my family history to give me a greater sense of belonging, greater sense of who I was. And I discovered all sorts of stories about my parents and grandparents in Birmingham. And that did make me feel better, actually, and that forms the core of a book that I hope to release later this year or early next year. Because Birmingham and the West Midlands, let's talk about the West Midlands in general, it's just something I'm really proud of. I've lived in several different parts of the West Midlands, and when I look at its contribution to the Industrial Revolution and manufacturing and arts and culture, I think it's an amazing place and I love it. Then in my 40s, things changed again. I moved to Germany, and so then there was another thing that was added to my sense of self, which was I was an expat, and that sounded like a really cool thing to be. I was out there being brave, discovering new things, experiencing different things, learning to view the world in a different way, learning about German culture and German language. And then in my 50s, it was probably in my 50s, I swapped the term expat for immigrant because I didn't want to differentiate between people like me and the millions of other immigrants who had arrived in the country. I got myself German citizenship. That was another huge thing for me. So I'm now German and I'm British and German, or German and British, whichever way you want to put it. And in a professional sense, I started to consider myself as more than just a project manager. I was a facilitator, a coach, a scrum master. I did lots of things. I tried writing blogs, and I became a vegan. First of all, a vegetarian, then a vegan. And also, I've gone through lengthy spells without drinking alcohol. So I've hardly touched a drop this year. When COVID first came out, I didn't drink. I was concerned it would not be good for me during lockdown to be drinking every night. So that, being a vegan, not drinking alcohol, has made me feel much fresher and healthier and stronger. And combined with my hiking and my running, I feel better about myself, although I have suffered with some depression, but that's for other reasons. You'd have to read my book to find out about that. And I've also started taking an interest in Christianity and spirituality. Yeah, it's quite interesting to reflect on how much I've changed through those different eras of my life. And so I go back to England, definitely a different person to the person who left. And friends of mine are saying to me, "Oh, it's great you're coming back, we can meet up." And I'm really happy about that and excited about that. But I do wonder whether they will be expecting the person who, for example, was the big drinker, the Wolves fan, one of the lads. I will definitely be different, and I don't know whether people I used to be friends with will like that, whether they'll think I'm boring, or whether they'll disagree with me over things, because that's another important aspect of who I am, is my values and what I believe in. And I said that when I was in my 20s, I believed in a fairer distribution of the wealth, and I considered myself as a socialist, and that was a good thing. But that was mainly focused on equal rights and equality for working class men, I guess, like myself. I don't remember broadening that to include other groups who were disadvantaged at the time. But if I think about myself now, I think I'm much more progressive. I care deeply about the rights of LGBTQ plus people, about people with different racial backgrounds. Women, for example, is a really important one to me. Maybe I was always like that. I really can't remember what I felt and thought when I was young. But what I do know is I'm much clearer about it now. I have much stronger views on that kind of thing. And I care deeply about the planet and all the people that live on it. And I don't know how this new person I am now with these different sort of characteristics and beliefs is going to fit into the country and the communities that I left all those years ago. I think it'll be okay. I'm not expecting an issue, but I am curious about it. Hello. Parlez-vous français? You speak French? Flemish or German? I think it's French. Aren't you lovely? Well, have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Okay, we've just had a nice lunch and carrying on with our walk. Anyway, what conclusion do I draw from my little talk about who I am? Well, I think the one thing I conclude is that we are much more than any one name or job title, and that it is really good for your feeling of self-worth if you do reflect on and consider all the different aspects of your life and where you bring something to this world. So it feels good to be able to say that I'm a husband, a father, a YouTuber, perhaps, a writer, an immigrant, someone who's lived abroad but who's returning home, and that in itself will be a story to tell, I'm sure. And that I have Christian-like values. You know, I believe in kindness, and I care for other people and like to be charitable. I believe in equality. So all of this together means I have something to offer this world and something to feel good about. And I think it's something worth all of us reflecting on, actually. So, thank you for joining me. Hope wherever you are, you're having a good day. Take care of yourselves. I'm so grateful to you for joining and watching. And I'll post another video soon. Thanks then, take care, bye.